everybody inside the land. It's your favorite Babalawo, Ogun, Odileke, coming at you with another great and awaited video that happens to happen in the beginning of the year in order to highlight what we think we value when it comes to how is this year going to go. And to understand that, we have to look at the Letra de Año. We have to look at the Ogun of the year. We have to be able to dissect what does that mean and how does that apply to us. So, disclaimer, it doesn't matter which Letra de Año you follow, more than let's understand that Ifa speaks in all 256 signs. All 256 means something. All 256 are communicated and are best evaluated, and they're best understood through your spiritual house. So it's very important for us to dig in and go to those spiritual leaders that are leading you. Let them guide you with what right looks like. For example, in my Ile, I take the folks in this congregation, right, in this spiritual house, and I use the Letra de Año from Miami. For this year, that's the one that I trust. That's the ones that I know, the Babalawos. Those are the ones that I know are going to do the ceremony correctly. Those are the Babalawos that I know are going to do it in the United States of America, which is more applicable to me and my lands, my Eguns, my ancestors are here. Right? One way or another, it's applicable to us. So I've chosen the Miami Letra de Año. But there's nothing wrong with using another Letra de Año, because 256 signs means everyone gets to understand the moral, ethical knowledge and understanding in order to build the wisdom that Ifa is trying to give mankind. So with that said, let's talk about more applicable to those who are going to utilize this Letra de Año so that you know where to go and how to get there. Again, please have a conversation with your spiritual leaders. Okay, now, one of the big functions here that I want you all to understand before I dive in is that your mano de orula, your delegun in ocha, your signs, anything that a divinity has given you at one point or another, is complemented by the Letra de Año. It's not necessarily that the Letra de Año is now going to govern and it's going to be the end-all, be-all, right? Because you still have restrictions, you still have prohibitions, you have AWOLs within your signs that you need to understand in order for you to push forward. And you will incorporate the Letra de Año along with everyone should be scheduling a consultation for the beginning of the year with your spiritual leaders in order to create that beautiful bow that's going to last you for the rest of the year. So with that said, let's dig right in so that way we can get right after it. All right, guys, when we talk about Otura Aire, we talk about the year of spiritualism. We talk about the aspects that many are going to convert in this year. Many. Okay? Otura Aire, we can explain it as Ogun carrying the world on his back. For anybody who has seen the statue, and a lot of bodybuilders have them, right? And there's this big cut-up guy, and he's got the world on his shoulders or in his back. That's called Atlas. And in this sign, we depict Ogun as Atlas. So it's important for us to say, Mafere Fun Ogun. Thank you for taking the challenges of this world and moving forward with it. But let's dissect that. Ogun is carrying the world on his back. But who is Ogun but a warrior? Who's Ogun but the core of this earth? Right? When we start to look at who is Ogun and what does Ogun do, we understand for him to be the paver of roads, the railroad tracks. He's the one that creates the roads the Elegua opens and closes. So Ogun has a lot of things going on. But when we narrow down Ogun and Ogun Daire, we look at Ogun as carrying the world on his back. He's the actual core of this earth. We look at the spiritualism side of this because I'm telling you, this is the year. People, if you have not figured out your spiritualism, if you are a practitioner of the Yoruba faith, if you just like to go get consultations, get it bowls and solve your problems and move on, I am going to give you a rude awakening. It is time for you to receive your mano de orula. I hate to tell you, you have to understand your destiny. You got to understand where you're going. You got to know who your Orisha Abatori, which is your guardian Orisha that's covering your head. We have to understand those things this year. We have to. This is the year of spiritualism. And it's very important for us to understand that and navigate through that. And this is another reason why. Because in Ogunda Aira, right, which is Otura Ogunda. I'm sorry, Otura Ogunda. Right, which is Otura Aira. We are complemented with the first witness, which is the second Odu, right, that gets pulled, which is Irete Ofun. Irete Ofun is one that mandates we do all the ebos as prescribed. We have to do all ebos. But in order to do an effective ebo, we also need to understand who's an Orisha Abatori. We also need to understand what's our destiny. We also need to understand what are the ebos of your sign and mano de orula. And you're going to have to dig into that. Your spiritual leaders are going to have to dig into that. Because your problems are going to show up. And when your problems show up, we got to do the ebo. Because Irete Ofun, Irete File, tells us we have to do the ebos. That lack of promises are going to happen this year. People are not going to keep their ends of the bargain. And we're going to have to do ebo in order to solve your problems. Babalawos and Oriates. Our work is cut out for us in 2023. We will have a lot of people who are going to need to solve their problems. We got a lot of people that are going to look towards the spiritual community for assistance. And we are going to be challenged of doing that. But not only that we're going to be challenged for doing it, I'm going to tell you that all priests and priestesses are under the microscope. Ogun has now taken an active role of putting the world on his back and is telling us he's there and he's watching and he's holding us accountable. Iretefile is saying that the ebos are going to save mankind. So if you're a Babalawo or an Oriate, and you're not doing the proper ebos, or you're performing ceremonies that you're not supposed to be performing, all eyes on you, all eyes on me. Issue is at the door waiting, and it's Chango that gave the power in Otura Aira, or Otura Ogunda, right, in order to reach the feet of Olofin. Right, so that means in order for us to get to that higher level of spirituality, we got to do everything right. And Mafara Fun Chango, who gave that power, but who's Chango? But the law. Who's Chango but another warrior that's coming forward and is claiming stake that we're going to do everything properly. But throughout that whole chaos, it's Eshu, Elegba, Elegwa, who's watching everything, the enforcer of the faith. Otura Ogunda is not an Odun that we want to play around with. Okay, so find your place in spirituality. I don't care what you believe in, guys. All right, you want to be a Catholic, be a Catholic, be a hardcore Catholic. You want to be, I don't know, in the world of Islam, go to Islam. Go do your thing, right? Be committed. You want to be a Buddhist, be a Buddhist. You want to be, you want to be a Babalawo, be a Babalawo. You want to be an Olorisha, be an Olorisha, which is a Santero, Santera, right? No problem. You want to be a Palero, be a Palero. But be the best spiritual person that you can be. That's the key. Because spiritualism will reign this year. Will reign. And I would not be surprised if a lot of people push towards the Yoruba religion this year. All right, enough said. We also talked about a second ago that Ogun, he paved the path. Right? He paved the path between the land of the dead and the land of the living. So Orun to earth, there's a pathway. Ogun is responsible for that pathway. So what do we say? Mafarafun Eguns. This year, I want everyone to take a cedar, right, or an ebony, a wooden cross, right? Not the one with Jesus on it. I want just a wooden cross, right? Right? And I want you to place that wooden cross on your bóveda, right? Now, talk to your spiritual leaders, right? Don't just jump off and go do things because Odile can say go do it, and then I find myself in trouble getting all types of phone calls. But the cross represents Elegua and the power of who is Elegua. The north, south, east, west. Represents the Opun Ifa as well. So this is an Ifa thing. And then I want you to take a steel ball, a little small steel ball, and I want you to put it, boop, right in the primary cup of your bóveda. Because in Altura Aira, Chango gave him the strength. But it was Ogun that was holding the world. That steel ball represents the core of the earth. The water in that cup represents the water that is predominantly the primary element of this earth. The cross is the directional forces, right? The Elewa is managing. Now's the time. The land of the Ogun is raining pretty hard this year. So start working your Oguns. Do that little thing. I promise you. I promise you. It's going to work wonders. The other thing that I want to tell you in Otura Ogunda is that Ogun is carrying this big heavy weight, right, on his back, right? And we want to give thanks to Ogun because Ogun wasn't really considered, right? Ogun was doing all this beautiful things, but Ogun was always by himself, and people never gave him the proper credit. This year, Otura Ogunda teaches us that people are not going to consider you. So therefore, be careful on how much you give to people. Be mindful that nonetheless, you got to take care of yourself first before you can help anybody else. So walking this cloud nine where you're going to give the shirt off your back to somebody, this is not the year for that. And I don't want you to take that role. I want you to be a little bit more deliberate on the sacrifices that you do. Because remember, with Irete Ofun being the first witness here, we need to understand that ebos are going to need to happen. And how are you going to be doing ebos if you're helping everybody else? You got to help yourself. You already know this is going to be a very controversial year. You got Ogun, you got Chango's energy flowing, you got Egun energy flowing. This year is going to be tough, guys. Gonna be tough, and I need each and every one of you to buckle up. Get your spiritual house right. Get your spiritual work right. Put that metal skeleton key inside of Ogun. Clean it up really good. Talk to your spiritual leader. Consecrate it. Put it in the pot. Reinforce your Ogun. It's gonna be this year. Reinforce your Ogun. In Otura Aira, we gotta work hard, right? We gotta earn better. We gotta be better. This is not going to be one of these signs where we can stick to bad habits. This is a sign where we got to start to mind our P's and Q's. We got to cross the T's, dot our I's. All right? We have to make sure that everything that is being done in this sign is being done with good intentions. And here's why I tell you this. In Otura Ogunda, this is where the distinction between good and bad begin to blur. And it's going to be up to you to understand the ethical and moral values that you hold in order to guide you. Do not get tricked into picking a road that does not necessarily suit you or suit your situation. Or when you do your risk analysis, right, and your pros and cons of whether or not you should do something. Be careful with even the people that you hang out with that have moral conflicts. Don't let no one else drag you down. Like Ogun decided to do things on his own. He was a loner for a reason because he knew the responsibilities that he had. And more importantly, don't bite more than you can chew. This world has a lot to offer, and you will see where people will stack their plates up and they'll be overflowing. And next thing you know, you give yourself complications, whether it be health-wise, spiritually, right? Or you don't provide the proper time management to do everything you need to do. Do not get me wrong. This year will be tough. I think the United States of America is in for a very rude awakening this year, which is why the Eguns are coming out, which is why we have two warriors that are up in front, right? No wonder that we have a third warrior, Velewa, that's watching. We have a lot of strong divinities that are there to remind us and give us recommendations. So here's a few pieces of information that I want you guys to truly hang on to. If you're the one making promises this year, keep them. If you're the one that's working with other people that are making promises that are make or break you, do an epo. Don't wish bad on anybody this year because the Eguns are reigning. And it's very easy for you to get an Egun Buruku, which is a darker, obsessed spirit that's going to attach to you if you decide to go into that type of mindset. Don't eat okra because that's the strength of Chango. And there's a pack with Chango as well between the okra and the Eguns. Don't rush to success. You have a lot of moving parts this year. So therefore, if you're carrying too much weight and you slip and you fall, or you're Ogun and you drop the world, bad things happen. Don't rush. Take your time. Organize and execute with precision. And listen to your dreams. There's going to be those of you who are going to awake this year with a spiritual awakening. Your third eye is going to light up. You're going to dream all types of things. Some of you may not even be able to sleep because the Eguns are going to be haunting you. But it's not because it's a bad thing. It's because the Eguns are there. But it also gives you insight on who you are. For those who are really spiritual, those mediums, you're going to have a hard time this year. But it's going to be your job to organize your Eguns, organize your house, so then that way you can get your sleep. You can get your premonitions in your dreams. You can follow your intuitions as you're supposed to. Because the Eguns want to see you succeed. And I will leave you with one last note. Okay? In this sign, we want to avoid being selfish and egotistical. We want to be ethical. We want to be upright, right? We want to be careful, though, right? We also want to make sure that people don't overpower us and we're not controlled. Irete Ofun is a sign that warns us about being controlled. It's the old story of the horse and the ox, right? An old bronco that's in the pasture, that's free and wild, is riding into the wind. But when the human captures it and has its ropes and is pulling and is trying to break that horse in order to domesticate it, is the story that we have in Irete Ofun. Which is why, as we begin to see how this controversial world is moving in 2023, your job is to don't allow yourself to be so locked down. Be ethical, be moral, but don't let anybody control you. Learn to compromise this year with your relationships, with your family, with your friends, and your spirituality. And with that said, in this Letra de Año, we also have a prophecy that comes out of Soboiku, Ojumbugbo, Inturi Anugbo, which talks about the cease and desist type thing within the life of human beings, right? Some of those major milestones, we say, some of those major blessings, right? Your health, your stability, your business, your economy, right? So basically your stability, your prosperity, your health, and your blessings. That if you want to maintain those things this year, you're going to have to be, and I don't like using this word so lightly because people get offended and they get all defensive when you say obedient. You got to be obedient. If not to yourself, be obedient to God. If not to God, to who are you? What type of person are you? You got to be true to something. And I'm telling you to be true to God first. Start working your way to where you need to be in order for you to maintain that love, that health, that stability, that prosperity. Because 2023 is here, and it's here with some strong vengeance. So with that said, let's talk about Ogun and Ochosi. I'm sorry, Ogun and Ochun. Ogun was the leading governing divinity of this year. No wonder, right? Ogun Daire. We talked a lot about Ogun there. We know the type of character Ogun was bringing to the table when you talk about this sign. We talked about Ogun a lot. But what is Ochun's role here? Ochun's role is beautiful because she brings the balance of these warriors. Because when we talk about Elewa, Ogun, Chango, and the Eguns, we got a lot of things going on. Ogun Daire has so much to do with Eguns. And I'll share this one last part with you, that, the paleros are going to be busy this year, right? Because there's a lot of people that are going to need to line themselves up with Egun. But more importantly, let's get back to Ochun. Ochun is the one that's going to soften the blow on a lot of these major events that are due to come. And these major events, when I say disobedience, I'm talking about world events. People that are going to violate treaties. People who are going to try to continue to invade probably different countries. People who are going to go against contracts, right? Promises. We just talked about that. You're going to see where we're going to be challenged as the United States of America, because this is the land this Letra's for. We're having to make some tough decisions on whether we follow the good or the bad, right? This government's going to be challenged, and we're going to be challenged morally and ethically. So Ochun is going to help try to soften that blow. No different than how she controlled Agayu. By every night, she should pour her honey in the water on top of Agayu in order to calm him down so he doesn't explode and destroy everything. Ochun has a lot of mystical powers. Ochun is a witch beyond witches. Ochun has a lot of passion. Ochun is a natural born leader. Ochun is the one who sacrificed herself and turned from a peacock to a vulture as she was burning up and getting all types of just almost dead, right? To reach the feet of Olofi in order to provide to mankind. Ochun is the right person to accompany such a warrior as Ogun, because we need that type of leadership. We need that type of ability to kind of calm down those waves when they come, calm down those eruptions when they come up. So with that said, every Letra de Año is presented with a flag. And I want each and every one of you to grab a green flag, okay? And in that green flag, because of who Ochun is, I want to be able to balance this year out. And I want to make the green flag half green and half yellow. Rectangular, half green, half yellow. And I want you to display it, right, with passion. So with that said, all right, Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche. Hopefully this message reaches you. Hopefully this message is fruitful. Hopefully this message is something that you can utilize. But always remember that these are recommendations. See your spiritual leader. Always remember your signs that dictate who you are in this faith. And if you're not part of this faith yet and you have not received your mano arula, but you're constantly working in this faith, now is the time. Let's figure out who you are. And for those who don't know, you don't have my information, there it is. Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche.